Hello YouTube, this is Tiro5667 and we are back with our APA Wi-Fi draft analysis for our second draft. So, as was discussed in their first draft analysis, this is APA Wi-Fi is doing a 3-part draft season. So there are 12 weeks in the season and we do a new draft for every 4 weeks. So we've just completed our week 4 battle. And now we are going to be using this new draft for the next 4 weeks. Now, to touch over how the season's been going thus far for me, I currently am actually sitting on the outside of playoffs looking in. I'm 2-2, so it took me a little bit to actually get used to the first draft that I did. I started out 0-2, but since then I've been on a 2-game win streak. And I could have been 3-1 if I knew how to calc correctly, but that's another story. Check out the week 1 battle if you want more details on that. But now for how the standings look, there are actually, I don't believe there's any undefeated teams left at this point. I think the highest ranked is JV at 3-1, and there's a bunch of 2-2 teams, which is kind of why, even though I am 2-2, I am still not technically in the top 8 currently, due to bad differential compared to all the other 2-2 teams, pretty much. So hopefully I can correct that with this new draft and just a little bit of mistakes I made within the first draft, such as no way to beat a ground type, no great ground type switching, that type of thing. Hopefully I can correct that with this draft. So this time around, instead of being a top 5 pick, I was a bottom 5 pick. So instead of getting a good pick, I got a bad pick, I'd like to say. And so starting out, a lot of the great mons are taken early on. And I was just stuck, well, here we are. My pick came up as there was nothing really great left I wanted. So I was just well, I'll just take best mon left on the board in my opinion. And so first pick overall, I got Zapdos. Now, Zapdos is definitely not a top 10 mon in this format in my opinion. Just still, I think a really good mon that can do so many different things. It could be offensive, it could be defensive, it can be anti-weather if I ever run into any weather setters out there. And it's just overall, I could do so many things. It's an amazing check to a lot of the metagame, really. Garchomp struggles in facing it, though Zapdos really struggles in facing Garchomp, so it's kind of a give and take there. And Galarian Zapdos, one of the great wall breakers, is literally 100% walled by Zapdos. It cannot do anything to Zapdos at all. Which is why I do not like Galarian Zapdos, because I don't like a mon that is completely walled by another good mon. I want something in any way to beat the other mon, and if there is not one set in this world that Galarian Zapdos can reliably run that beats Zapdos, I don't think it's a good mon, period. And so that is my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt, however you want to do it, I don't care. It's just Zapdos, I think, is just a great defensive check to many of the best offensive mons. And as well, I can use this a good offensive pivot, or just I can sweep with it with agility sets, or however I want to go with it. But overall, I kind of drafted it more of a defensive mindset this time around. My first team was kind of very offensive, so the second team is a little bit more kind of pulling it back, going to be a little bit more defensive, that sort of thing. So with that in mind, the second mon is Ferrothorn. Now, it's another steel grass type that it's just in the same way that Kartana was in my first draft. So once again, my grass type isn't checking ground types that well, but this is a very, very bulky defensive mon. I used it in SBU. I kind of loved it as just an annoyance. Get rocks up, get spikes up. Leech Seed, other mons, throw Toxics around. just to be an overall nuisance to the other team. Gyro Ball, Body Press, Power Whip, that sort of thing. Heck, I've even run Giga Drain on it a couple of times. Just overall being super annoying. Super hard just to break if you don't have like the correct like fire moves or just fighting type moves or anything like that in general. It's just hard to break otherwise, so kind of just like, okay, I want this. And also it works as like a good like defensive pairing with Zapdos. So Zapdos kind of comes in, takes like any like random like fire type coverage moves that mons like Garchomp would run, just in order to like take barely nothing from it. Also works as just a good pivot. Zapdos takes on a lot of fighting types that Ferrothorn struggles with, and Ferrothorn is able to take on, well, the rock types, I guess, and ice types in a way that Zapdos may struggle with as well. So overall, I just think like good defensive synergy there. Ferrothorn also gets like rocks and spikes, so two great moves that I think like the last team I had was really lacking with spike stacking. So I really like that I can spike stack with Ferrothorn here. So that's exactly what my plan is every week, is just to get rocks, spikes. However, I like to run Ferrothorn. It's just overall great defensive mon in my opinion. So next up, I decided to take Nidoking. So I had two great defensive mons. What I needed was a breaker. And Nidoking works as an amazing wall breaker in this tier. Really helps out with Ferrothorn as well. I can also run like a bulky Nidoking. I believe it does get toxic spikes as well as rocks, so I don't have to force to run rocks on Ferrothorn every week. I can run rocks on Nidoking, and vice versa. I don't need Nidoking to be my rocker since I have Ferrothorn. So Nidoking can be like the more offensive wall breaker that it's meant to be. So sort of like why I wanted Nidoking, I wanted something to break for picks I have later on, as well as just like so that my defensive core become even more of a nuisance later on, especially if like they're more healthy than their team's defensive core. It'd be extremely tough to like get through them at the end. So sort of like why like my thought process of picking Nidoking. Once again, Nidoking is amazing as like one, I can now handle fairies a lot better than even my last team. I kind of struggled with fairies. I did have Glowking, but other than that, it's like Glowking's like super slow, and I didn't really like Glowking having to constantly come in and take like maybe like a random Shadow Ball from a fairy if they were carrying it or whatever. So it's just like I wanted something like a little bit faster, just so like Glowking didn't have to take 2 hits to dish back 1 type of thing. So I'm a very much of a like faster player that I enjoy playing, like speed wise, which is kind of like Glowking wasn't really meshing with me that well. I still think Glowking is an amazing mon, honestly better than Nidoking, but for what I wanted, I thought Nidoking was a better fit here, and I'm pretty sure Glowking was taken by this point anyways. Alright, so next up after Nidoking, we have getting Vaporeon. Just last draft, I forgot to draft the water type until the very end, and I actually never ended up even bringing Clawitzer in the first place, so this time around I wanted like an actual good water type. So I was like, okay, Vaporeon's still available. And what Vaporeon does is, like, one of the biggest issues with Ferrothorn is it doesn't have good recovery outside of like Leech Seed, which is very non-reliable. So having Vaporeon as like an amazing Wish Passer, I can use like Flip Turn, I can use Baton Pass with Wish in the air, get my Ferrothorn back in, get it back to a really reasonable health, as well as like having one of the best like fire checks out there with Vaporeon, since like many fire types aren't going to be doing a lot of damage to Vaporeon, and Scald is just going to do a lot back. So I was just like, that was like a way to like help the defensive bulk of both Ferrothorn and Zapdos. Once again, ice types as well. Vaporeon can come in, handle an ice beam. The only ice moves that would actually scare Vaporeon even a little bit is Freeze Dry. And Vaporeon actually just has a lot of bulk in general, so Freeze Dry, though super effective, isn't going to be doing a whole ton of damage to it from the mons that I think are like scariest with free try. So exactly why I got Vaporeon here, kind of completed like the bulky defensive core I have. And now going into pick 5, I decided to get Entei. So I had the special Wall Breaker, and I had a lot of special mons. Like I had Zapdos, Nidoking, Vaporeon, usually going to be running special attacks if they're running any like special attack at all. Nidoking can be mixed, but most of the time Nidoking will probably just be a special Wall Breaker due to his better special move pool compared to Sheer Force than his physical move pool. So this time around I was like, okay, now I want a physical Wall Breaker. I wanted something that can like coincide with Nidoking as my wall breaking core. So I was like, Entei is still available. Let me just get Entei real quick. Banded Sacred Fire. Not many things would want to switch into that. Its burn chance is ridiculously high, and it's just it does a lot of damage as well. Banded E-Speed is amazing. I can run boot sets if I want. Overall, just Entei is just great for what I wanted to do. I just wanted to break things. I wanted to deal a lot of damage. I wanted to get those pesky burns, if ever need be. So overall, this is kind of why I ended up drafting Entei over, say, another fire type. Like I don't know, like I don't remember what was what fire types were available at this point, to be honest. I guess, yeah. So I ended up getting Entei. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I don't remember exactly what the fire types were available. I know Cinderace was taken earlier, so I know that wasn't available. But kind of why I ended up with Entei, so form that wall breaking core with Nidoking and Entei. Going to pick 6, now I wanted a cleaner, because I have wall breakers, I had walls, now I just wanted like a cleaner. Tapu Lele, it was the, oh crap, I need a fairy type pick as well, as same as like last draft. I was like, oh crap, I need a fairy type, let me get Gardevoir. And Gardevoir actually ended up being my MVP for the first 4 weeks, as it ended up getting number 2 on kill leaders, just mostly because of the 5 kills it got in the last week. But Tapu Lele is a very threatening mon. It's been banned a lot in Gen 7 draft just to do like how broken terrain was at that point. Now they did nerf terrain by a lot with like defog and then like lowering the the boosted damage from psychic and grassy and electric terrains. So they did that, but it's still Scarf Lele is a threat overall. Not many mons want to come in and have to handle its stab combination of Fairy Psychic. Like the only things I would really want to come in is Steel types. And for Steel types, I do have like an Entei for breaking. I have a Nidoking for breaking. So overall, it just kind of meshes very well as either a cleaner, or B. I can also just use it as a wall breaker if I want to. Depending on like how this draft looks so far, it may not be like seeing that wall breaker roll too much, especially since I just think Scarf Set is better than like Spec Set for most matchups, and B, I can also just run Calm Mind as like a step sweeper instead. So we'll kind of see how it goes with like each week, who I'm facing, how it looks in matchup, that sort of thing. But for now, it's literally just a Gardevoir 2.0 in a way of like it's both Psychic Fairy. It's just a little bit faster, so it's a Psychic terrain, and it's probably. Actually, I don't think it hits as hard as. I'm gonna need to check the base stats here real quick between Gardevoir and Tapu Lele. I do not know which one hits harder. I would think Gardevoir. Oh no, so Tapu Lele actually has a little bit higher special attack. Huh. I actually did not know that. Well, more you know. Yeah, so Tapu Lele is literally just a little bit more powerful Gardevoir. Which is funny. I don't think it gets Mystical Fire, unfortunately, but it does get Focus Blast or Shadow Ball for Steel types. Like a lot of the Steel types are also part Psychic types, so like Jirachi and Metagross. Shadow Ball, like switching them in is kind of like easy to predict with Tapu Lele, since like it's the best check by far are steel types, so I can really just call those switches and hit it hard with a Shadow Ball. So kind of really like Tapu Lele with the team. It was the oh crap, I needed fairy type pick, of course, because that's just how my draft goes a lot, is the oh crap, I need this all of a sudden as I'm going through it. So it's kind of how Tapu Lele ended up on the team, but overall I like how it looks on the team, even though it was just like the last second pick. And it really meshes well of my playstyle of I like to play offensively, even though I did take like a very like bulky core. I do love to play offensively, so great. I think it meshes really well with the team. And going on to next week, we have Dhelmise. Another mon that I drafted in SBU. It's my second grass type, of course, because I was weak to ground, and so having something to check ground types is really paramount. Dhelmise is amazing, technically with like 3 stabs due to its steel worker ability, and it gives me rapid spin support. It's also a good spin blocker, so Ferrothorn can set the spikes and the rocks. Dhelmise can come in and just block spins from a lot of mons. So overall, I just think to keep like rock spikes up for both to help my cleaner Tapu Lele and my wall breaker Zeo-King Entei in the game there. Really good, really important. And just Ghost Stab, especially like with Poltergeist, is just really amazing, as like the checks are what normal types and dark types usually. So overall, I wanted a good like grass type as like a bulky way to handle ground types, and B, I just wanted a spinner and a ghost type in order to block spin. So I think Dhelmise is just checking all the boxes of like what I needed at that point. And once again, it was like a very like special team built so far, especially like Tapu Lele just adding to my special attackers. So another good physical attacker was a good add there. Next we had Noivern. So, if you've been paying attention at all so far, you may have noticed that my highest base speed total at this point was 100. And that's not great, especially in like how bad the power creep and speed creep has been, especially in Sword and Shield. They just decided to jack up the speed creep to 100 all of a sudden. So I needed something faster than just base 100, or then I would be facing a bunch of just modest, adamant, like fast mons. So Zeraora wouldn't need to be jolly or timid versus me. Same with Dragapult, and even same with like the higher than base 110 mons. So I was like, okay, let me get a faster mon real quick. Just let me get something that's like is fast, can be a nuisance. So it's kind of what Noivern is. It's fast and a nuisance. Specs Boom Burst does a bunch of damage to a few mons. It's not exactly like the most powerful mon in attacking or whatever else. It is usually here just to kind of just throw Dracos around and just be fast enough to like outspeed most mons, and at least force prep to not just be adamants and jollies and timids everywhere. I mean adamants and modest everywhere, or just non-speed boosting natures. So I kind of like what Noivern is more here for is I want to force the opponent to at least respect my speed tier of Noivern, so that they are forced to run like speed boosting nature instead of the attack or special attack or the defensive boosting natures. So it's kind of what Noivern's here for. It's still Infiltrator is nice, drop Dracos, and that sort of thing. Kind of just here to as the speed and just as like a good like dragon type overall, I think. So next up, we have Bewear. Now at this point in the draft, I was just kind of trying to round it out as best as I can. I wanted a fighting type to help Tapu Lele break through steals, and I also wanted a normal type just so I don't have to worry about getting absolutely wrecked by like ghost types overall. Especially since I didn't draft Spectre this time around, someone else took Spectre. So I couldn't just say, well, I have Spectre, so I don't have to worry about the best ghost types coming against me, pretty much. And that was literally the whole entire draft one analysis in a nutshell. Congratulations. So why did I take Beware? It's 8-point mon. I think it's just nicely tiered. Its fluffy ability is really nice as just like a defensive wall against like physical attackers outside of like fire moves and earthquake and other moves that don't really make physical contact. A poor man's fur coat, pretty much. And Beware is just like, it also hits pretty hard. Bandit set can be scary. There are Scarf sets out there. It can be like more of a like setup set. With I believe it does get bulk up. I'll need to check on that. But overall, Beware is honestly just a I think just a fun mon to use. I'm very excited to use this mon. I don't think I've ever really drafted Beware before. I know I've drafted Stuffle, so like in Little Cup, I had drafted Stuffle before, and I've enjoyed using Stuffle. So we'll just see how it goes with using Beware. I know Little Cup and Standard are different, and so the baby mons in Little Cup don't really mean that the fully evolved mons are going to be great. There aren't really many provings of that outside of like maybe Ghastly into Gengar, so let's see how it goes with this. But I do like it does get bulk up, so it's just wanted to confirm that. So I can just be like a bulk up set. It can just SC set, taunt, toxic. It's just a bunch of like fun moves. This thing actually gets really like a lot of like fighting types really get a lot of like good coverage moves. So like Ice Punch, Iron Head, Zen Headbutt, Rock Slide, Shadow Claw, Thunder Punch, Dragon Claw for some odd reason, Darkest Lariat. So I just pretty much have like all these moves to hit the other mons, even like aerial ace if I ever like face like, you know, a Heracross or a Buzzwole, I can aerial ace for some damage. I don't know how much aerial ace will be doing to Buzzwole, but Heracross. Yeah, Heracross, that's what it's here for. So overall, just great coverage, bulk up, hits really hard. Fun normal type to use like in order to like check ghost types, and also it could be very bulky versus like the physical attackers that may not have fire moves in order to break through it. So I just think fun mon. It's just a low tier mon. It's not like I'm not trying to make it like my main sweeper or my main wall breaker or anything like that, but just like a fun low tier mon that will force people to look at it as like, okay, I might need to prep for this a little bit, or it can run rough shed through my team. Now for my final pick, I wanted a couple things. First off, I did not have a dark type, as I noticed late in the draft. I was like, well, I still need a dark type, or I could get just set up spam versus psychic types that I do not really like to face. Second off, I still like I had a Tapu Lele, but I also wanted like another mod to like to hit dragon types really hard, as well as like maybe flying types as well, since my flying type check other than Zapdos wasn't really there per se. So Torrent-T would do a lot of damage to me. So I was stuck with like, do I want like a defensive mon for this role, or do I want offensive mon? And so going into it, I was like, you know what, I already have a pretty good defensive backbone. Let's just get something offensive. So I took Sneasel. Helps us like both a dark type and an ice type. So Sneasel as a dark type, of course, it's not really checking psychic types that well due to its pitiful bulk. But it's still really fast, and it falls between the speed tier Noivern and Zapdos. So that like the base above 110 are still having forced to run the speed nature if they want to at least outspeed or speed tie with the Sneasel. So like I don't have to worry too much of like Raikus or anything else between the 110 and the Noivern. I was like 121 speed tier of deciding, you know what, I'm not gonna try to outspeed the Noivern. I'm just gonna run Modest. I'm just gonna run Animate, that sort of thing. So Cecil's kind of here to kind of fill as like the role of like it's base 115, so it's nice on the fact that I can still force speed natures on the opposing team. It gets Ice Shard, which, great. I have on top of Lele. Let's run Ice Shard. Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking when I drafted this mon. But it's great priority in Ice Shard. I don't have to have Psychic Terrain up at all times. I can also kind of build around, like if I wanted to, like if I'm forced to run the priority Ice Shard, I kind of build around the top of Lele and make it maybe Telepathy, maybe not even bring it. Only force it in when it's absolutely necessary, that sort of thing. Triple Axle's really nice. Great eyesight move that they added recently in Sword and Shield. And of course, knockoff spam is amazing. It's good slow kick, so like maybe like annoying like bulky steel types could still do some damage to them. SD can be threatening. Choice Band sets are threatening. Boots, of course, just not really care about rocks being up. So overall, I think Sneasel as like an 8-point low tier mon. It's still, of course, it's not as great as Weavile, of course, but it still can be like a very scary threatening mon. So kind of why I drafted it. Of course, like the scariest mons in like the format overall, so like stuff like Lando T, Zygarde, which I don't really find too scary, but can be threatening the sets up, Garchomp, that sort of thing. Sneasel actually is able to beat most of those bonds. Of course, it just had to worry about Garchomp setting a scale shot, Orlando T clicking Agility, Rock Polisher, or Zygarde just like getting a couple Dragon Dances up. So it still has to worry about that, but Ice Shard helps mitigate that. Its speed tier is really nice as well. I don't have to run a Violet every single week. I can use it more offensively instead of like trying to give it a little bit of bulk since it doesn't really live much anyways. So I just think overall, this team is definitely different from the first team I drafted. My first team is like a lot more offensive than this team. This team is a little bit more bulky, but it can be offensive, so it can still fit in the playstyle that I love playing. So it's more like a balanced offense than it is hyper offense this time around. But it does give me like spikes, which I desperately needed in my last team, and it also gives me, I think, like a little bit better ground check with Dhelmise and Sarina was. I know they're both like around the same defensively. I just think Dhelmise is a little bit more threatening offensively due to its dual stab. So just enjoy that as well. And I think just overall, a couple of these mods I've really wanted to use. I've really wanted to use Entei for a little bit, especially with boots now. Entei can be a little bit more scary, not really having to worry about rocks being up. I've wanted to use Tapu Lele since it's unbanned in draft due to the huge terrain nerf that it unfortunately had to endure. As well as like I wanted to use Beware. Cecil's just like a fun mod to use. Overall, like a lot of these mods I've wanted to use, I've never really used before in draft. So I think I'm just excited for it. Let me know what y'all think. Is this draft better than my first draft? Is it why T-Row? Why did you choose this? You're trash, and you should probably be going 0-4 in these next 4 weeks, and then get knocked out of playoff contention, and then your last draft won't even matter, so you screwed yourself over, blah, blah, blah. Just let me know what you all think in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all for week 5. Peace.